Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
Do what you want to do at City Hall. Do what you want to do at the Capitol. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord.
Amen.
You know, I believe that we have been defending ourselves for the past 2 years. I believe it's time for the villains to start defending themselves. And I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about non-compliance, peaceful resistance, civil rights type of movement, where we finally come to a point together in unity, in solidarity, if you will, and we will say to them, enough, it's enough. I mean, you're pushing, we're going to push even harder right now.
At the cross where I first saw the light, and the burden of my heart rolled away. It was there by faith I received my sight, and now I am happy all the day.
You see, the cave of Adullam is a story of misfits. Those that were running away from corrupted authorities. Those that were in distress, in debt. And they came together to the stronghold called the Cave of Adullam to form the mighty men of David, unbeatable army that to this day, thousands of years later, we learn about those heroes of faith that would stand in the middle of the field. And one guy would kill almost 1,000 warriors. Another would stop the entire army in the middle of the field, even though everybody else was running away. Let's be those heroes. The Bible calls them the mighty men of valor. A man of a different spirit. A man and women, of course. When you see an evil approaching, when you are a true shepherd of God's people, and you see hyenas and wolves approaching, you cannot help it but stand up and say, get out and do not come back or else.
When I went to Pastor Artur's service this past Saturday, I did not realize, nor did any of us, that later that day he would be arrested again, as we've seen in the past. I wish I could say this was an isolated incident. However, for the past 2 years, our great dominion has been under attack. From coast to coast, pastors are now facing the wrath of politicians who say they're trying to control a virus, fail in their pursuits, and then blame everyday Canadians for that same failure. Instead of attempting to represent the people they claim to serve, they now assault those who continue living their lives without the stamp of approval from bureaucrats claiming to advocate for public health. This would be understandable if the state were going after pedophiles and murderers. However, they have now turned their gaze to those who feed the homeless or give refuge to the marginalized. Pastor Artur is no exception, who, along with Pastor Tobias, was in attendance the day I went to the Church of Adullam. Both had been arrested recently, and both have been given conditions which they're told to abide by. Even still, it was not anticipated that later that same day, Pastor Artur would be in bondage courtesy of Calgary police yet again. We will provide you an update soon on the arrest and the release of the two Pawlowskis soon. That'll come in an interview shortly from Adam Sos with Artur's lawyer, Sarah Miller, who's had their back via SaveArtur.com, a donation portal dedicated to Artur's legal fight, which aids Sarah in fending off these vindictive authorities who keep going after the Pawlowskis. This defense is possible because of your donations, which would qualify you for a charitable tax receipt. Today, however, we're going to take a look at what Pastor Artur was doing before his arrest, just hours before when I was at the Church of Adullam. As you'll hear, after service, he had intended on joining a peaceful vigil, or what some have called a protest, outside the home of the Minister of Health. But before we show you that, I want to show you the sort of church service the province of Alberta has tried to obliterate, as well as the message Pastor Artur preaches, which had already been suppressed through a ruling by a man named Adam Germain, who's considered a judge here in Alberta. He ruled that any time Artur was critical of the lockdown measures, vaccines, COVID, or the science of it all, he would also have to give the government's stance on these same matters. Thankfully, Sarah Miller was able to get that Chinese Communist Party-style compelled speech order stayed while she appeals the rest of Pastor Artur's conditions. You can see that story, sign our petition, and send the Judicial Council a message by going to firethejudge.com. Now, without further delay, here's Artur and the church service that he provides, which Adam Germain and Premier Jason Kenney are trying to suppress. And I'm glad to be able to share that message with you today.
angry.
I'm not surprised that people have no hope. Like, where do I go from here? The foundation is being pulled away from under their feet. They're like, this is all I had in life. My family is all I had in life, and I can't visit them anymore because they took the shot and they won't have me anymore. They won't allow me to come for Christmas. I'll share one story with you. There was this young man who had not taken the shot, and his family had. And his father called him up and said, "You're not coming for the Christmas gathering." This young man didn't know what to do. He went and killed himself. And as the funeral director was dealing with the family, that father said, "If I could just go back in time, if I could just unsay those words, I would do it."
You see, we are hearing from the corrupted, totalitarian, evil, wicked politicians of today that we are in this together. But the truth is, it's them and us. They are enslaving and destroying, pillaging, murdering. And then there is us. So we have to come together. We have to start uniting with each other. We are in this together. We are to be a blessing to each other. We are to support each other. We are to come together as a family. And that's what happened today.
I wasn't always this way. I was locked and bound. I was lost, not found. Could not be free. Jesus didn't give up. No, he didn't give up on me.
Do what you want to do at City Hall. Do what you want to do at the Capitol. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord.
Amen.
See how long you're going to last with your laws before you have to bend for us.
Shame on the government, shame on the police, shame on the RCMP. I mean, how long this is going to continue? Don't they see? Don't they have their own families and children to think about? I mean, totalitarian regime will never stop and needs to be stopped. And now they're being used as the weapons, as the tools for the tyrants. And here's my message for them. Please stop being used by the wicked, evil people. Please stop harassing citizens that you swore to protect. That's your job. And if you cannot do your job, then resign and let somebody else take over. So this is pure harassment, in my opinion. They are doing the same thing to me, of course, and to others like us that, we dare to stand up and preach the truth, and they don't like that. Liars don't like the truth.
That's a taste of what the state wants to shut down. And after that service, Pastor Artur and his brother David had been arrested and hauled away by Calgary police. Right before their arrest, a peaceful vigil, or what some have called a protest, was held outside the home of the Minister of Health. Artur and David were both in attendance, but not to trespass nor to harass, as Premier Kenny would allude to. Instead, let me share Pastor Artur's message that he shared earlier in the day that pertained to that event.
Today at 4:30, there's going to be a special rally. They're going to meet at a park on 42nd Street Northwest, up in the Market Mall area.
I believe that we have been defending ourselves for the past 2 years. I believe it's time for the villains to start defending themselves. And I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about non-compliance, peaceful resistance, civil rights type of movement, where we finally come to a point together in unity, in solidarity, if you will, and we will say to them, enough, it's enough. I mean, you're pushing, we're going to push even harder right now.
After the vigil was over, the Pawlowskis were hauled away Gestapo style, as you've probably heard Artur say before, and made to spend the night in custody. I'll show you a quick clip of their dramatic arrest, then listen to the message Tobias had about the situation. He was on his way back to Manitoba at the time, but I reached out and I'm thankful for the video response he sent my way.
You know what his charges were? You call that crime? For opening church? Wow, yes, yeah, wow.
Public health orders and
you get orders from corrupted politicians, corrupted leaders, and this is what you do.
So it had been a long time since we had been together, so we were both excited and had a good time together, knowing little that that very day he would be arrested yet again. And I got that news as I was traveling home, and I was shocked. I didn't want to believe it, and was sad to see my brother being arrested like that. Yet, we want Pastor Art to know that he's not alone. We were praying for him and had his back. We know that when one suffers, we suffer with him. We go through it all together. When they attack one of us, they attack all of us. We by ourselves are very weak, but together we are strong. And I'm thankful that Pastor Art keeps standing. We're here for each other. And thank you all and love you all for your support. God bless you.
Let me say again quickly, to help Artur in his legal battle against the state, go to saveartur.com, where through our partnership with the registered Canadian charity, the Democracy Fund, donations would go straight to the legal fight he's now faced with. And let me remind you, donations now qualify you for a charitable tax receipt. Thanks for tuning in to the end and hearing out the message of those now being persecuted by the state because they wouldn't bow down. For Rebel News, I'm Sidney Fizzard.
We have been arrested again. We spent 24 hours in jail, and we're facing 3 more charges, believe it or not. So if you can, if you're willing, go to saveartur.com, and if you can chip in, please do. We have fantastic lawyers. They saved us before, and I know they're going to do everything in their power to save us again. Stay strong, don't give up, and look at us. Even though the government is persecuting and prosecuting us left and right, we're still standing and we're fighting for you as well.